Welcome back to The Explainer. For all you focused learners out there, we've got a really cool one today. We're uncovering the astonishing technical depth hidden within an act so incredibly mundane, you've probably never given it a second thought. I'm talking about weighing items at a retail checkout. We're going to look at the architecture of the sell-by-weight feature in the Register POS system by Ability Business, and let me tell you, the engineering hiding right beneath the counter is absolutely fascinating. I want you to picture this. You place a pound of apples on a grocery scale. The cashier presses a button and you pay. It seems so simple, right? Well, what if I told you that to make that tiny 2-second interaction happen, we actually have to bridge continuous analog signals, legacy serial protocols, real-time database queries, and strict state-level legal compliance? Today, we are completely shattering the illusion that a scale is just some simple digital readout. Okay, here's our roadmap for today's explainer. 1. The invisible digital handshake. 2. A cello, not a drum. 3. Surviving the checkout environment. 4. Automating fairness with software. 5. The strict legal boundary. And finally, 6. Achieving zero financial variance. Let's dive right into this.
Starting off with Section 1, the invisible digital handshake.
Think about it like this. If you break a bone, an X-ray gives you undeniable visual proof of what went wrong. But with point-of-sale data, you don't get that luxury. You rely entirely on an invisible, fragile connection between a physical chunk of steel and a cloud database. And the stakes here are massive. If this digital handshake fails, literally, if a data parser misinterprets a single hex character, a business can silently hemorrhage thousands of dollars a month, and they wouldn't even see a single red flag going up.
Moving on to Section 2, a cello, not a drum.
To really understand this invisible connection, we have to look at how different checkout technologies capture physical mass. Let's look at a barcode scanner for a second. It basically works like hitting a snare drum. It fires a single discrete event, reads UPC code, sends a text string to the processor, and bam, it's done. But a commercial scale? It's not a drum. It is a cello. Just like a cello requires continuous, exact tension and dynamic analog resonance to hold a note, a scale constantly translates physical mass into an active, continuous analog signal. And that brings us to the load cell, which is hidden right inside that metal platter. When you put an object down, a piece of machined metal physically bends by just a fraction of a millimeter. That tiny deformation actually changes the electrical resistance of the strain gauges attached to it, so the Register POS software can't just passively wait. It has to sit on an asynchronous thread, constantly listening to the buffer, ready to instantly capture this dynamic physical displacement the exact millisecond the wait stabilizes. All right, Section 3, surviving the checkout environment. So how exactly does this delicate, highly tuned system survive the brutal environment of a grocery counter? Honestly, looking at the configuration with COM ports, baud rates, and stop bits, it kind of looks like we're setting up a 1990s mainframe in a basement, doesn't it? But this seemingly archaic setup is a rugged necessity. A modern USB connection runs on a tiny 5-volt differential. That would be completely destroyed by the massive electromagnetic interference, the EMI, kicked out by refrigeration compressors and meat slicers sitting right next to the scale. Instead, they rely on a legacy protocol called RS-232. It uses high-voltage swings, acting like an absolute tank to push data right past all that electrical noise without dropping a single bit. Because they're using these legacy protocols, the software essentially has to act as a universal translator. Register POS supports the big hitters, Avery Waitronics, Cass, Mettler Toledo, right out of the box. But what about unlisted, obscure scales? Well, Ability Business writes custom middleware for them. They use regex patterns to intercept the super messy serial output string, strip away all the garbage formatting, and extract just the clean, usable weight data. This is a huge deal because it prevents perfectly good, incredibly expensive legacy hardware from just becoming obsolete overnight. Which brings us to Section 4, automating fairness with software.
Now that the hardware is translated, the POS system steps in to actively protect you, the consumer. In the past, a cashier had to remember to press a physical tear button to zero out the weight of an empty tray. But relying on human memory during a busy rush is pretty dangerous. If they forget, you end up paying $30 a pound for a heavy glass tray holding a few artisanal chocolates. Not great. Register POS fixes this by moving the tear entirely into the software. The system automatically queries the database, sees the preset software tear weight for that specific container, and subtracts it instantly. You literally only pay for the product. It just automates fairness.
Setting this whole thing up requires a really specific sequence for the business owner.
Step 1, they configure the workstation. Step 2, and this is the big one, they enable a sell-by-weight Boolean flag on the applicable inventory items. When the cashier selects an item with that flag, it triggers a hard software interrupt. It pauses the normal transaction loop, forces open the COM port to the scale, sends the read command code, and parses the weight in just milliseconds. Then, step 3 is testing to ensure perfect alignment before the system ever touches a real customer's transaction.
Okay, Section 5, the strict legal boundary. So despite having all this incredible software control, there's a hard line developers absolutely cannot cross. And this is kind of a wild twist. If a scale's calibration starts to drift, the software developers at Ability Business will completely wash their hands of the hardware. They flat out will not fix it remotely. Their documentation literally tells businesses, call a local hardware dealer. But why? If they have the routing, why won't the software engineers just write a quick patch to fix a broken scale?
Because it is highly illegal. Selling by weight is strictly governed by the National Conference on Weights and Measures, specifically under NIST Handbook 44. A scale must be certified as legal for trade. This means a local, licensed inspector has to physically visit the store, test the machine in person, and place a physical, tamper-evident lead wire seal right on the device. A remote software engineer adjusting calibration over the internet to compensate for mechanical drift? Totally illegal. That is exactly why the software company provides a pristine digital ecosystem, but strictly mandates that a local professional handles the physical instrument.
And finally, Section 6, achieving zero financial variance. This perfect partnership between that highly regulated local hardware and the cloud software leads directly to the company's bottom line. By totally eliminating manual math and cashier transcription errors, the system heavily protects the business's margins. When the whole system sings in harmony, it creates a clean, seamless sync right to QuickBooks Online. And let me tell you, in retail accounting, a clean finish is the holy grail. It means zero variance, no missing inventory, no missing money, and no tired manager spending hours doing manual end-of-day reconciliations. The financial ledger in the cloud perfectly, flawlessly mirrors the physical displacement of the products on the counter. So the next time you toss a bag of apples onto a grocery store scale, I really want you to think about what's actually happening beneath the counter. It is not just some random number popping up on a screen. It is an absolute symphony of legacy data protocols, continuous analog resonance, software tear calculations, and strict state-level legal compliance, all executing flawlessly in a fraction of a second. It's an invisible handshake turning physical gravity into precise economic value. Thanks so much for joining me on The Explainer today, and keep your eyes peeled for the complex systems hiding right in plain sight.
Experience the difference a true real-time point-of-sale system can make. Learn more at abilityregister.com or email Mike at sales@abilityregister.com and discuss how Register Point of Sale can be a perfect fit for your store.